This is the last part of the masterclass. I wanted to start a prompt from zero with you. So the one I wanted to do is the one from Steve Jobs. He made probably one of the most known speech of all time. And if you haven't seen it, well, you really should. It's an awesome speech. It was in 2005 for Stanford, and it has pretty much everything. The idea is that I don't want to start from zero. If you remember, you have what's called one-shot prompting, meaning that you need to give an example to start doing what you want to do. Here, I wanted to try if by uploading the speech from Steve Jobs, can I create a better speech for myself? I know I've done it with TED Talks, and it worked pretty nicely. I want to see if I can do it with Steve Jobs. The idea is not to steal what Steve Jobs has done, but there is probably something in it, some pattern that we can replicate, and we can it can help us make a much better speech. So I just went on Google and I typed Steve Jobs speech PDF. If it's something that is not publicly available like this one, you have tons of ways to get the transcribe of a YouTube video, to just get the text. I'm pretty sure if I type YouTube to text or YouTube to transcribe, you can find something in like seconds. But this one, I'm lucky enough that the whole internet is filled with Steve Jobs speech. So I download it. And now the first step, if you follow the last course, the first step is to go through meta prompting. So meta prompting is a prompt to help us write a first draft of a prompt. So this is the meta prompt I have for now, but bear in mind it's something that I will update more and more, and that you can find on the AI Hub. But so far this is the one I have, and with the prompt draft, which is my simple prompt, I'm gonna go with something like, I just uploaded the Steve Jobs speech. Can you help me make my own speech? And because of the way ChatGPT is made, you don't want to go for like the full speech right on. You want to start with, let's say, the structure, the direction you're going to go. And then through follow-up prompting, you will write the whole speech. But you cannot do it right off the bat. You cannot do it directly. Otherwise, it's going to have a hard time consuming and using all the tokens within one answer. By the way, the speech is 15 minutes. Ain't no way ChatGPT can just give you one answer with 15 minutes of speech. So by creating a structure first, you have a much better chance to get a longer speech because you can do it bits by bits. So let's do it. You have prompt draft. I will go with like, I uploaded the speech from Steve Jobs at Stanford in 2005. Read it, get inspired by it to help me write my own speech. So fairly simple, terrible prompt, right? The point is that because I don't have time and you probably don't have time, it's a way to just get like something right off the bat, and then we're gonna work with it. Here, it's not a system that is perfect, it is just my system. This is what I do on a daily basis. I go on that meta prompt, I write a simple prompt, I get a much better one, and once I copy the much better one, then I go on the second tab, opening ChatGPT, and this is where I actually twist the prompt until I get something that I love. And by the way, you have to use GPT-4. It's just a no-brainer. You cannot go out. You cannot use something else. I could have also used Claude, but the problem is that much more people use ChatGPT Plus instead of Claude Plus, Claude 3. So I think it's just better for now to use ChatGPT. So you see, you have the prompt, and already you have all the things that I taught you. Act like someone, you have a step-by-step, so it's the chain of thoughts, and take a deep breath and work on this problem step-by-step, which is like the magical last sentence. So I'm going to copy this right here. Copy. Go on a new chat and you paste it. Here, I'm going to read it again to make sure I cannot clean it, because sometimes ChatGPT adds some extra stuff that you don't want. It's much easier to edit and erase the bad part of a prompt rather than starting from zero. We humans are so much better at editing and like trimming rather than going from scratch with a blank canvas and trying to do something. But I have to say, very rarely, I will get what I want from one prompt, okay? It's not about the results of ChatGPT, it's more about what do I actually want? And usually you get that through iterating and getting answers from ChatGPT. So let's do it. First, I'm gonna trim it. So you can see that it forgot the fact that I'm gonna add the Steve Jobs speech, and I want it to not just be an inspiration, but truly something he can use as a one-shot prompting technique, something he can learn from and actually adapt to my own speech and needs. I'm guessing there is also this that is missing, the fact that it has to know my context, and here that's also one part. It's also part of the one-shot prompting, meaning it needs to know, who am I? What do I need? What kind of speech do I want to do? So first, I'm saying that, hey, I just uploaded the speech, so I do want you to read it, and that's probably going to be step one. So here I can tell that the step where I'm actually sharing what kind of speech I want to do is missing, and probably I would put it here. So first, I always say, okay, read the PDF, get inspiration from it, and I always ask ChatGPT to tell me what it learned. Kind of like a student, you know, when you're teaching something to someone and the person says, okay, it's good, it's in my head. You kind of want to ask, okay, tell me what you understood from it. Because, and this is something a prompt engineer from Claude, from Anthropic told me. She told me that if you don't use tokens to explain something, if the LLM like ChatGPT doesn't tell you anything, there is little chance that it actually got it. Meaning, for an LLM like ChatGPT to actually process the information, it's not just about how much text it can listen to from you, how much stuff you can write it, but how much stuff he can say. By saying something, it actually gets the thing. So by answering you the stuff he understood, actually makes it understand it and implement it. So you really need to have this like processing and like, can you just tell me what I just said? You need to have this step in order to get a much better result. So here, quite simply, I'm gonna say step 3, you need to understand what speech I'm gonna write, and I'm gonna put it between hashtags, because this is how you prompt on ChatGPT. So I just share like some part of me and what kind of speech I want to share. We're going to try this prompt and just send it that way, but I can already tell that most probably I want ChatGPT to read my context, know how Steve Jobs made his speech, and then there's something I love to do with ChatGPT is that I ask ChatGPT to ask me questions that I have to answer in order to create a better structure. So meaning, imagine you have Steve Jobs in front of you. If he wanted to help you write a better speech, probably the first thing he would do is, okay, answer me those questions like, who are you? What makes you special? What's your story? How can you connect the dots? Because it's about storytelling, so we need to learn a little bit about your story. Now, what's hard is to come up with the question you have to answer, and this is how ChatGPT comes in play. That's this like kind of, it's some sort of tree of thoughts-ish, because ChatGPT asks you the question, and you answer, and you select the path it's gonna go, and hopefully it's gonna create a very good structure from it. All right, let's go. First try, and most probably not the last. All right, so as I said, I knew that ChatGPT didn't have enough context about me to make a good answer. And this is something you should know. ChatGPT will never tell you, LLMs will never tell you, hey man, I'm sorry, but I don't have enough context from you to build something good. This is something a human can do. A human can see it and be like, I think we can do much better. And it's not about doing your homework. I need more context. I need to ask you more questions. So really take LLMs like a good student. ChatGPT is a good student. You give him something to do, he's going to do it. But most probably you're not asking the right question. And most of the time, that's the true problem, is that you don't ask the right question because you don't know exactly what you want. As I said, I don't want to copy exactly what Steve Jobs says. And here, this little part of the speech, embracing mortality, this is something Steve Jobs did because he almost died from cancer. Now, I am very healthy, so I don't know why I would share that in my speech. But I do want to connect the dots the same way Steve Jobs have done it. And I do want to share something transformational, or at least with a heavy connection to my past, just like the same way Steve Jobs did it with his embracing mortality part. So in order to achieve this, well, I need to receive questions from ChatGPT that I have to answer. So what I do is that I just go back from the top, and you have a little editing part. You see this editing button? You just click on it, and we're gonna go through everything and probably change a step. There's probably a step somewhere that should be, okay, now that you know my context and Steve Jobs' speech, I want you to ask me questions to actually get there. So we're gonna be one, answering question from ChatGPT in order to have more context. 2, writing the structure. And 3, write the speech one by one with the structure. All right, let's do it. All right. I just add this one sentence. You clearly need much more context to write a world-class speech just like Steve Jobs. Ask ask me as many questions as possible to fill in the structure Steve Jobs laid down in 2005. Maybe at the very end, what I like to do, I just stating the obvious again. Remember, it's first about you asking me the right questions to build the perfect structure for my speech. As you can see, I now have 8 questions to answer, which is much better. Of course, we could use the first speech that ChatGPT is going to lay down to us. But remember, LLMs are not made to make us more lazy, but to actually create much deeper, much more valuable stuff. It's no longer about starting on a blank canvas, but to actually combine what you love best, the frameworks, the speech, the inspiration, the content that you love most, with the right prompt and then the right work from you. So yes, answering 8 questions plus making a long prompt is hard. It takes time. It's not something you're going to write in about 30 minutes or an hour. But think about it. I'm writing a speech. So yes, it's probably going to take longer than 30 minutes. And that method is probably much faster than if I had to go for it. Starting from completely zero, especially if I'm not good at writing speech. So let's take it one by one. What I like to do when ChatGPT asks me a question is to literally just do one and answer the question, and he knows I'm answering the first question. All right, I just answered the 8 questions. It was a bit long. I even had one step where I said, please help me, because I don't know how to answer that question. I said, well, yes, it's all about vulnerability, but please, can you help me on this one? So hopefully when I'm going to press enter, it's going to connect the dots with those 8 answers. So what I'm going to do, I'm still going to copy it just in case I have to remake the first question, the first prompt. But most probably we have the right one now. All right, we have the whole structure and we even have bullet points. to answer it. Sometimes you have this continue generating, always click on it, is because the answer needs a little bit more. And see, now it's done. So it's good. It's really good. I can actually start from here. I like it and I'm going to keep the prompt. But there is one thing we can do is how is the speech related from one part to the other one? Can you connect each part of the speech together? I want to know how I successfully connected the dots. Because that's all about the Stanford speech. How can you connect the dots? It's interesting to see that ChatGPT didn't really understand what I meant. So you have to do what is called calling out the mistake. You just say, this is not what I meant. You made a mistake. Explain to me how and why each part of my speech are interconnected. Awesome. Now we see that at each part of my speech, there is a why it's connected to the rest. Why is it connected to the rest? Which is exactly what I wanted to have. Now, if I really wanted to start writing it, I could say, for example, write the second part, the entire second part of my speech, connecting the dots. What I love about this speech that has been written is that you even have the connecting words like so. So as you navigate through your own journey, remember anything. So if I wanted to go with this, I could clearly go for it. Maybe if you want a longer version, you can say, hey, it's not long enough. Or if you want the first part of the second chapter of the speech, you can ask for the first part and then the second part. This is really up to you. Now you can change the tone. I want a more humoristic tone. I wouldn't advise to go for humoristic for a speech. I can tell you from my own experience, it's really hard to be funny, especially during a speech. People are not here for that. But you probably know that one, that kind of follow-up prompt where you can change the whole generation to get something, well, let's say different. I just wanted to show how to do it. I could also say, and this is a pretty valuable one, hey, I want to be closer to Steve Jobs' tone of Steve Jobs' way of talking. I think it already did a good job in the previous one, I have to say. I'm pretty surprised. I'm always surprised by the quality of those generation. But if you want something more humoristic, you can always do it. Awesome. As you can see here, we've been through many different steps. One, to find the right inspiration, and for me it was the Steve Jobs speech. Two, how you can upload a PDF and give a very thorough step-by-step guide to ChatGPT so you can actually read it, act on it, give you a good strategy, asking you a question so you can make a structure. And only from the good structure, you actually do the speech. You also have seen how to use meta prompting, which is the fact that you kind of always want to start with the prompt that makes prompts. You take that one, then you go on ChatGPT and you take it from there. And the only reason behind this is that it's just much easier to do it. And most probably, the more we're going to be advanced with LLMs, with ChatGPT, GPT-4, GPT-5, the stronger the prompt maker are going to be. Up until a point where talking naturally to an LLM would be sufficient, which is not the case for now. So that's one. Two, and this is probably the most surprising part for you, is that yes, I could have gone to ChatGPT. I kind of want to do it right now just to show you. And I could say, hey, write my speech. Write my speech like Steve Jobs about me being a content creator. And you'll see the result is going to be terrible. It's going to be bad because ChatGPT doesn't know who I am. I mean, you start with good morning, everyone. I want to start today with a story, but it's just not good. So clearly, you want to go step by step. Step one being, okay, this is a good prompt. Step two is, okay, upload the one-shot prompting, the one-shot example, Steve Jobs, and get the right structure. Step three, answer to some questions so that ChatGPT gets much more information. So then the answer is not going to be dull. It's not going to be generic. It's not going to be a complete copy-paste from Steve Jobs. For example, the fact that Steve Jobs is going to die, you hopefully are not going to die. So you don't share the same experience as Steve Jobs. I mean, I do have some doubts. I think at some point you're going to die. But me too, sorry. I'm sorry to tell you that. No, but you don't want the examples and the information to be coming from Reddit, Wikipedia, and all the stuff that ChatGPT has been fed on, but rather from your own context. And because you don't really know what to say, well, just ask ChatGPT. What do you want to know? And most of the time, it does a pretty good job for it. So here you have it, the structure. Now, can you imagine? You go on a Google Doc, took you like 20, 30 minutes, and you have a whole structure. And now it's up to you to upload and to write the actual speech. And guess what? You can write few parts of it. You can co-write it with ChatGPT, or you can write it and then copy-paste it on ChatGPT and say, hey, can you upgrade it? Can you make it longer? Can you make it shorter? Can you make it sound more like Steve Jobs or more like me? This is up to you. You are the master behind the wheel.